Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1672. Today I'm back across the pond in the UK and I'm in the hothouse. Hold on.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm back across the pond in North Hampshire, just about 20 miles from Silverstone, that little cool racetrack, talking to a very special guest by the name of Geoff Love. Hey, Geoff, welcome to Cars Yeah, my friend. Are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I certainly am, Mark. Yeah, really looking forward to this afternoon.
We'll have some fun, yeah. And I think you're a guy who's always buckled up because you've been in this automotive world forever. And before I give you a proper introduction, would you tell me one little thing that maybe most people don't know about you?
Yeah, I think the one thing which very few people would know about me is that I play tenor saxophone in a 20-piece jazz big band.
Oh my gosh. This is very interesting because I've had a string of people on the show who are involved in music and do different musical things. How long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been in music all my life, and actually when I was much younger I used to play in a brass band.
Nice.
I played in a band who were at one point world champions, not when I was with them, but they still played at a very high level.
Wow.
And then children came along. The commitment to music was too much, so I left that. But my wife on my 40th birthday bought me a tenor saxophone.
Nice.
Which was a brilliant present. And I thought, well, what do I do with this? So I went back to school. I got myself a teacher. I'd started with grade 1, went through all the grades, and then joined a big band. And we have a lot of fun. There's 20 of us. We do a little bit of touring. We do concerts. They're called Jazz Colossus. It's great fun. Anything which kind of takes you completely away from whatever you're doing in your day job, in your daily life, that you can switch off and do something completely different is fantastic. And that's what I do.
Yeah, that was a brilliant gift your wife gave you. You know, I grew up playing the guitar and I learned from a classical teacher. So you went through all the grades, as you say, and you know, the scales and everything. I learned how to read music and actually ended up during high school. I taught music in a music store to kids, learned how to play the guitar. And then you kind of get out of it. You're right. Life gets in the way and so forth. And my wife, I think it was our 5th wedding anniversary, been married 36 years now, she bought me a guitar. And my old guitar had kind of been up in the closet and hadn't gotten it out. And it sits right here in front of me. It reminds me to pick it up and pluck it and enjoy it. It's a beautiful acoustic Washburn. And then my son got into guitars. And so I bought myself a Fender Stratocaster, the hot rod model, which is a limited edition.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And so, you know, I've got the guitars back and I try to pick them up and play them as much as I can. You're right. It's good to get away from something you traditionally do. I think it's brilliant. So kudos to your wife for that very loving and wonderful gift to bring music back into your life. I think that's great. Well, if I'd known that, I'd have had you play us something here today. Well, let me give you a proper introduction and we're going to dive into what you're up to these days because you're doing something new and cool. I had your cohort in crime, David Lillywhite, on the show not too long ago. So Here we go. Geoff Love is the co-founder of Hot House Media and the new publication, Magneto. He and David, as I mentioned, a previous guest here on Cars Yeah, David Lillywhite, teamed up again, I'm going to say, because they did some things before in 2018 to launch the quarterly publication. And in this unique year, they also did the Concours Virtual. So if you're online or you're a car guy and you follow me, you know what I'm talking about. It was their way of keeping all of our spirits up through this very difficult summer that we just lived through. He was publishing director of Thoroughbred and Classic Cars and left there to set up that other awesome publication called Octane. As a many years subscriber to that. He ran Evo, another great one, and launched the International Historic Motoring Awards. And in 2016, Geoff was lured into that mad world of the Motorsport Network and became their European president at Motor One before running their UK Autosport operation, including Autosport.com, Autosport International, and F1 Racing magazines. I've sent you a lot of money over my life because I subscribe to all those.
Well, thank you very much.
You're
yes.
welcome. He's an entrepreneur with a track record of launching mostly, he put those words in there, successful initiatives into the classic car and media world. I say you're a great success, Geoff. We're going to come back and talk about his life, but first a word from our valued sponsors that make this show possible. Give them a little listen, give them a little love, and we'll be right back. Keep your seatbelt on. This is going to be fun. Did you know the most damaging thing to your vehicle's interior is the sun? Those harsh UV rays damage your interior over time. They crack your dash, they fade the colors, and the heat makes getting into your favorite ride downright unbearable. My friends at Covercraft have the perfect solution for you. Their sunscreens are easy to use, they take seconds to install and remove, and protect your vehicle while parked in the sun. They fold up easily and store away for those times you don't want to use your car cover. I have one for every one of my vehicles, and you should too. They come in a variety of colors and options, featuring an accordion design that makes unfolding and folding them a breeze. Want to give a gift that keeps on giving? Buy a Covercraft sunscreen for your family members and friends. They'll thank you for it every time they park their vehicle. They're custom made to fit almost any vehicle. Check out covercraft.com for a huge number of styles, colors, and options. And here's something special from me here at Cars Yeah, just for you. Use the code YEAH120 at checkout at covercraft.com and you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order. Go to covercraft.com and use the code YEAH120 at checkout and you get 10% off. You can thank me later. Covercraft, they've got you covered. I found a new way to protect my vehicle. American Collectors Insurance. That's who now protects my Porsche Turbo, the one I call my Orange Crush. But did you know they also insure your valuable collectibles of automobilia and automotive collectibles? If you're like me, you've invested in a lot of cool automotive collectibles over the years. Those items are valuable, and if you were to lose them in a theft or a fire, well, try to get your normal homeowner's insurance to pay you what they're worth. Good luck with that. American Collectors Insurance provides you with assurance and confidence that your collectibles are fully covered. American Collectors Insurance have been protecting us automotive enthusiasts since 1976. They provided me with an agreed value insurance policy backed by a history of taking care of their clients. Give them a call today for a quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. And protect the ones you love. I did. American Collectors Insurance. Classic car and collectible insurance designed by collectors for collectors, just like you and me. All right, Geoff, we are back, and as we continue on this journey that I will call your life, I'd love for you to share a success quote or a mantra, some kind of saying that's been instrumental, like the way I put that in there since you're a musician, informing your life and your success. It's a great way to get those inspirational tires smoking a little bit here on Cars Yeah. So, Geoff, grab the wheel.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Mark. And I suppose I've got two. Am I allowed two?
You are allowed as many as you like. You know what? This is your show, so you do whatever you want.
Well, thank you. Yes, I'd say that one which really I take on board more from a personal perspective, and the other one is something I focus on in my career and work life. And I think both of them are very applicable to the difficult times that we live in. So the first one is attributed to Buddha, but actually it was from Jack Cornfield's compilation of Buddha's little instruction book. And it is, the trouble is, you think you have time.
Yes. Boy, does that hit home for an old guy like me.
It's a reminder. It's not to say that you need to get out and party all the time, but it just reminds people that as you do get older, time goes quicker. Time is precious, and you need to look after it, and you need to do the best with what time you have available. And I think certainly at this moment in time, when a lot of people, we've lost a year, it does remind us that it's a precious commodity, time, and we really need to look after it well.
It's so important. And as we age, I had one guy tell me one time, he said, aging and time are like a toilet paper roll. As it gets towards the end, it speeds up and you get more and more nervous. I thought that was kind of a funny one, but you're right. Time is our most precious commodity, and I'm always so grateful that people like you, Geoff, and my past 1,671 guests have given me their time to share. We don't realize it, and being on social media as I am with so many followers, I really don't think a week goes by, and I just had one this morning where one of my friends, my Facebook friends or whatever, past guests, loses somebody in their life unexpectedly, even at a young age. And you just kind of stop and go, I better make sure I'm doing what I like. And not to be morose and think that this could be your last day, but it could be, or it could be coming sooner than you think. So yes, use that time wisely. And of course, all those things by Buddhas are just wonderful. And you said you had a second one.
I do. And it's one from Albert Einstein, and it's really applicable much more to kind of work life, but also to personal life as well. And that's, in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. And I think for everyone who's certainly had a very difficult year this year, you've got to learn to pivot. You've got to be really agile. You need to look at what's coming at you and see where the opportunities lie in those difficulties. Yeah. And that's something that I've learned in my career, that we all get challenges, and it's often how you respond to those challenges that if you're going in a forward or backwards direction. So in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity.
Another great one and very positive. And you made a great segue here into my next question. And that's talking about this new publication. And there's a couple things here I wanted to touch on. Number one, you and David being in the publication industry for so long, knowing what you're doing, and this new publication, I'm a subscriber, by the way, and I want to make sure all my listeners, if you want to select just a few publications to get, because so many of them are non-existent, and a lot of them I've just stopped subscribing because they're not relevant anymore to me. I used to get 40 magazine subscriptions a month. 40, yeah. I mean, my wife would just laugh, go, how are you going to read all that? But it was my evening reading. I'd crawl into bed and read magazines front to back. But I want to talk about a couple things. One is you guys have pivoted very nicely in this first year of life with Magneto. And as I said, I'm sitting here looking at issue 7, waiting anxiously. You're going to press tomorrow for issue 8. I cannot wait to see it. It's really, really brilliant the way you've tackled this. And before I ask you the obvious question, and that is, why are you starting a magazine? Is I want to talk a little bit about the 800-pound gorilla I keep referring to here on Cars Yeah, and that's COVID. And the fact that you guys did a pivot this year, which was really marvelous. I saw so many of my past guests do this. Virtual Concours. Talk a little bit about where the concept came from, how it went. I know it was a success. I did a virtual wine tasting with you and Kevin Buckler and a bunch of our mutual car friends for Adobe Road Winery and the Racers Group Wines. Virtual Concours. Talk a little bit about that. It was really a brilliant idea.
Well, it started out, we were looking to launch a concours, a physical concours this year. And it was to be at a very boutique event. It was going to be on Savile Row in central London. And we were looking to marry manufacturers and great cars with the tailors. For those that don't know, Savile Row is seen as one of the world's centres for bespoke tailoring.
Very famous.
So we built the core of a website, and then we obviously had to postpone the event. And we thought, okay, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do over the summer? We've got an opportunity here. We knew that a lot of the concours were going to be cancelled, postponed, and we felt there's an opportunity to bring something together online. So it was a very small idea as it started. We thought, well, if we can get about 40 cars together, we'll have a couple of classes, we can have a little bit of fun, put it online. But it grew. I started by asking about 45 friends, colleagues in the classic car world, from Wayne Carini, Bill Warner, Jay Ward. I'm sure many of these have been on your show, Sandra Button, to be judges, thinking, well, maybe get a few of these. But what I didn't realize that actually all of these people were looking for something to do because we were in lockdown. And so they all came back and they all said yes. So suddenly I had 45 judges. I know, it's
incredible, the lineup that you got. It was just amazing.
We had amazing support from collectors, from personalities within the marketplace, from judges. So we started to build some classes, and then a lot of people said, well, we'll provide you with our cars, these cars. And we ended up with, I think the numbers are something like we had 160 cars in total. We produced 200 videos over the 6 weeks of the show. We had 1.2 million interaction on Facebook and on the website. We had some amazing sponsors. The presenting sponsor was Haggerty. Adobe Road Winery came on board. We had Lange & Son, German watchmaker. And eventually we managed to raise about $65,000 for UNICEF. And we had a lot of fun. And I think in a very difficult time, it was an opportunity for everybody within the collector car market, the Concours world, just to do something, get their cars out, even if it was only virtual, to vote and enjoy interaction in a way which wasn't possible in the physical world.
It was brilliant. And I was very proud because I was the host of one of those virtual wine tastings with Adobe Road. And I think at the time we put you just over the top of 50,000. I think we raised about 15,000 that night with a bunch of my friends that we were all in Zoom meetings and enjoying wine and talking, and had you there. David was off working. I think you were slave driving him. He couldn't even join us. But of course, it was the middle of the night for you. I was really looking at you with a fondness, going, man, this guy's like 3 a.m. and he's hanging out with us, just. Yeah,
yes. And I do remember I was left right to the very last.
And that was not my deal. I did not do that. I'm going to throw some other people under the bus, but I thought, we should have had him on first, the poor guy. He's calling in from overseas. But of course, that was great. And of course, a shout out to our mutual friends, Cindy Sisson and Teresa Gilpatrick from GS Events. They were great to help us do that. And Cindy was just driving and pushing that extra money over the top. Well, it's really a cool thing that you did. I think it's fantastic. We had a lot of different people doing things this summer to kind of help us all get through this. And as I sit here right now thinking, I would be packing my bags for SEMA right now. That's not going to happen either. So yeah, it's been a challenging year. Well, let's talk about other challenges, and that is launching a magazine. So I guess the first question is, okay, what on earth are you and David thinking? Because as we know, magazines are struggling. It's been a tough time for them, but we've seen some great new publications come out of this. My good friend Pete Stout with 000, he launched that publication this year, which I'll tell you what I abruptly did was I canceled about 15 of my subscriptions and used that money to subscribe to his. And then you guys come out with Magneto, and I go, oh, another cool one. And I got my first issue, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. So I guess, and I won't say it in a negative way, but what were you guys thinking?
I know print is dead. We've heard that so many times. I think where print had got to is there was so much print and not great quality, and publishers, the big mainstream publishers, having to cut costs, which impacted on paper quality. A lot of people were finding a lot of their news online as well, and time is short. So David and I got together and said, okay, well, if we were going to look at trying to reinvent print in some way or move it on a little bit, what would it be? And we came to the conclusion that quarterly, because people can have the time, then they can settle down. I mean, I'm not sure about you, but I get an awful lot of magazines as well. The number of them that stay in their cellophane wrapper and the next one comes through the letterbox because I haven't had time to read it. So we thought, well, if we could produce a really high quality quarterly publication, which people can sit down, to settle down to and read, we can curate the content. The one thing that the websites are very difficult. There's so much coming at you. This is almost an antidote to the download of information. So we curate content which we think people will enjoy. We have some great writers in the magazine in the issue which is going to press tomorrow. We've got a story of Bonneville, and that's Ken Gross is writing that. Where we have Winston Goodfellow, we have Carl Ludvigsen, obviously Dave as well, who's a fantastic writer. So we've put together a great collection of writers. The art editor we use, he's won numerous awards.
Is that Peter Allen?
Peter Allen, yeah. So Peter's won. He's amazing.
He's doing a great job, by the way. I come from a design background. I've been a designer and a art guy, I guess I should say. And that's the other part of it, is a lot of these magazines have just gotten terrible. I don't know who's designing them. They're hard to read. They're just, everything's clumped together. In your publication, from my eyes, being a critiquer of creative, I guess, is just a delight. And even the tactile feel of the paper, the size, the weight, you feel like when it arrives, you're right. It's like getting a book. You've got something and you want to take the time to get away from your device, sit in your chair, turn on a light, pour yourself a drink or a cup of tea, whatever you enjoy, and just sit back and enjoy it. And I think you've done that exactly with what you guys have created, Geoff. It's delightful.
Well, thank you. And the other side to it is we work closely with the advertisers. Advertisers are moving away from print. We're aware of that. But we only have it's 180 page magazine, and we have no more than 50 pages of advertising in there. And so we're able to work closely with the advertisers and give them something more than just a page or half a page in a magazine full of other advertisers. So we try and look after the advertisers. We know we've got a very good audience, a great audience. We've built a lot of it is controlled circulation. So we do go to some of the biggest collectors in the world, and that's created a kind of a waterfall effect. So we're picking up a lot of really good subscribers who the advertisers want to talk to. And I've been in publishing a long time, and it's quite simple. What you need to do is build a great product that people want to read, and that advertisers are willing to pay to reach. And that's all we do.
Well, you've done it. And the current issue I have now, eagerly waiting, number 8, I have issue number 7, and I really enjoyed it because it's got a story about Colin Chapman, how Lotus innovated its way to the top. I raced a Lotus 18 when I was vintage racing for years with the wobbly wheels, and right on the cover is a wobbly. So it attracted my attention, that beautiful Lotus yellow cover. Yeah, everything you're doing is great. I really encourage my listeners, if you've kind of steered away from print because of all the reasons we've discussed, I'll put a link to their website. I encourage you to give it a shot. Take some of those magazines you don't read anymore, unsubscribe, take that money and put it towards Magneto. I think you'll find this will be a keeper. It's one of those magazines like 000. You don't throw them away. You create an archive because it's got all this great information inside. You've really done a nice job. Now, I always ask my guests about challenges. And of course, we talked about the challenge of COVID this year and what it's done to everybody has been just horrible. I want you to share maybe a huge challenge that you've faced in your past. And this is more about the life lesson it gave you. And more importantly, how did you pivot or move that into a positive way so that experience helped you gain even more momentum as you move forward in your life?
Okay, well, I think you don't get to being 50 without facing a fair number of challenges.
I hope not. That means you tried some cool things.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I think if you haven't faced any challenges, then you're probably not working hard enough or having enough fun. So yeah, there's been a few. I think one of them which actually led on to the road which became Octane, which was the first project I launched with a group. I was Thoroughbred and Classic Cars. I was a publishing director at what was EMAP in the UK, a FTSE 100 company. And I hadn't been there long. I was just still getting used to it. And they brought in a new managing director into the business. And sometimes you just find it very difficult to get on with people. And there was a personality clash, which ended up within a year of me being a fairly new publishing director. I left the business. And that is a start point of, okay, well, when you're pushed out of a business or when you decide to leave, you've got to think, what am I doing? Because it's so easy just to stay on the same treadmill. Things are going okay. It's often something which pushes you out or makes you want to leave, that questions, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to turn this into something? And I think from there stemmed the thinking, which is, okay, well, I don't want to really rely on other people. I don't want to be beholden to managers or things which I don't have any control of. If you own your own business, there's lots of challenges, and don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
You're in more control. And so that's what led to my thinking of, okay, well, I want to run my own business. I want to build a business. And that led to the launch of Octane Media in 2003. And that in itself was a big challenge. We were launching into what were classic cars, thoroughbred and classic cars, classic and sports car, two big heavyweights in the classic car market. And we needed to raise finance. I needed to put a team together. So we put the team together. We raised the finance, and we raised the finance from the chairman of a Premiership football club, Simon Jordan.
Yeah, that guy.
Yes, he was chairman of Crystal Palace Football Club at the time, and he was looking for investment. And so we went to him, all fairly naive and young, and said, "This is what we want to do." And he gave us a grilling for an hour, and then turned to his finance director and said, "Give them the money."
That was a nice grilling. You were cooked to completion there with a nice crust on the top.
Yeah, it was. But I suppose it's those challenges. It's when you're pushed out or you leave somewhere that really forces you to think, okay, what do I want? Where am I going? And it gets you off the treadmill and forces you to make decisions. And that was the one I made then.
Well, this is a great story, and it's a great lesson for anybody out there. If you're in a situation and you're not happy, you really need to start asking yourself some better questions. And if you just stay there and think or hope, I always say there's no hope in business. If you hope things are going to improve, they probably will not unless you make some actions to help them improve. Yeah. But even more so, these kind of situations allow us to sit back and go, what do I really want to do with my life? If I could do anything and figure out a way to do it, what would it be? And would it be this? And most people never really ask themselves that question.
That's very true.
I always say there's one thing to realize that you are in a situation where there's a problem, but it's quite different to actually do something about it. And my hat's off to you, Geoff, for doing something about it and going out there and doing the difficult legwork of getting grilled and finding financing and putting a team together and putting a magazine together, a brilliant magazine. Octane loved it. And now you've done it again with Magneto. So great life lesson for anybody out there who's in a position. I always tell people, if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't smell right, and if every day you get up and you go, you had better find a way to change your life. Because as we said earlier, life can be very short and much shorter than you think it is. Nice story. Thanks for sharing that. Let's take a short break and thank our sponsors. We get back, though, I want to talk a little bit more about you and this passion that you obviously have for motor cars. So sit tight. Keep your seatbelts on. We'll be right back. Let's step away from the conversation to talk about our charity of choice here at Cars Yeah, America's Automotive Trust. America's Automotive Trust is a group of like-minded nonprofits that are working together to preserve and promote car culture across the country. Together, they provide scholarships and grants to aspiring technicians and restoration artists. They provide youth education programs and bring communities together through automotive-related events, car shows, and drives. Among those nonprofits is RPM Foundation, a terrific organization working to keep our favorite collector cars on the road. RPM was created to ensure that the specialized skills needed to care for classic automobiles, boats, and motorcycles continue to be passed down from generation to generation. They do this by supporting training for young people with a passion for restoration and setting them up with mentors who can share their valuable knowledge. So far, they've awarded more than $3.5 million to restoration education projects across 35 states. Incredible! To learn more about RPM or to donate to their mission, visit www.rpm.foundation. You'll be glad you did. Kevin Buckler is a winning racer and team owner of the Racers Group. He has over 100 professional wins, multiple wins at the 24-Hour of Daytona, and a win at Le Mans. Kevin realized the racing world is about the people and founded Adobe Road Winery. He and his team have created a winning combination with the Racing Series, 4 ultra-premium red wine blends that are in a class of their own with a racing twist. Just like in racing, these wines comprise of art, precision, engineering, science, superb taste, all blended together with a whole lot of fun. There are 4 carefully crafted blends with race-inspired names: Redline, Apex, Shift, and the 24. When you purchase all 4, you get the entire lineup in a beautifully designed gift box. There's a printed description of the blends inside the box lid, and every bottle is parked in a protective, die-cut placeholder. The bottles feature 3-dimensional labels, and I promise you'll want to keep them after enjoying these delicious wines. The box is so cool, you'll want to keep it too. The Racing Series is a killer gift for the automotive enthusiasts in your life, and I have a deal for you. If you use the code CARSYEAH, all one word, all caps, at checkout, you'll get $10 off any purchase of wine from the Racing Series. Your wine ships promptly and arrives quickly. Use the code CARSYEAH at checkout for $10 off on your purchase today. There's always a seat at the table for excellence with the Racing Series. Go to adoberoadwines.com and use the code CARSYEAH today to get your deal. Cheers. All right, Geoff, we're back. Would you tell me a story about that pivotal moment in your life when you knew that you were going to be a car guy?
Now, this is probably where I'm going to upset some of your listeners.
I like to upset listeners because, it makes them stop and think a little bit. Now, I may get some funny emails, but I'm always good at answering those. So,
Because whilst I've been in the car world a long time, very few people would probably call me a car guy from that perspective. Cars have been omnipresent throughout my life. I mean, my father was a car salesman. In fact, he's just turned 75 and he's only just stopped working and selling cars.
Good for him.
He sold cars all of his life. And then when I was at university, I was sponsored by the Rover Group. So I worked with them for 4 years. They've always been on the periphery. They've not been a core to who I am. I took business as a degree and I always wanted to move into business and never entirely sure what that would be. But magazines started very early on in my life. And it was only when I decided I wanted to become a publisher that I actually moved into publishing cars and classic cars in particular. It could have been gardening. It could have been walking. It could have been a host of any magazines. It just happened to be at the time there was a vacancy in the classic car arena. So from a business perspective and a career perspective, I said, well, I want to be a publisher. I've got a little bit of history with cars. That seems to be a good fit. So it really wasn't until I became a publisher of thoroughbred and classic cars and then with Octane that I started to really enjoy cars more than I probably thought I would do. I've been, David and others along the way have drawn me in to the car world. And for me, again, probably to the disappointment of some of your readers, it's less about the cars and it's about the people. There are some amazing people in the car world. It offers you the opportunity to travel, to meet some amazing guys with a real passion. And that's what attracts me very much.
Well, you've actually, in a roundabout way, discovered the reality of the car world. And that really is the people. And I've said this over and over. When we missed all these great events this year, it was more about our friends that we would run into. People we only see maybe once or twice a year, but they become cohorts and buds and chums, and it's because of the cars. The cars are just the catalyst that bring us together. So in a way, you kind of figured that out before maybe some of us car people figured it out. Yeah, we like the cars, but it's real. That's why these cars and coffees are so popular. It's a chance to go be with your buds and hang out and drink a coffee and eat a donut or whatever you like to do and talk cars. But you eventually say, how's the family? How you doing? What are you up to? And the cars are just the way that we come together. So, but you had said in an email you sent me early on, you're the paper pusher. David's the guy that drives the cars. So,
yes. Yeah. I drive spreadsheets and Dave drives cars.
Well, somebody's got to run the business. That's for sure. Because us car guys sometimes aren't so good at that. Now, when it comes to cars though, is there one special car in your life, a car that stands out that you've owned? Maybe it's a car you have today or a car you used to have, or maybe a car you aspire to have.
Well, I have had a couple of cars in my past. I'm a big Alfa fan. Not necessarily old Alfas. I'd like some old Alfas. And one day when the school fees have gone, then maybe I'll be able to afford some of the cars I'd like. But I've had some modern Alfas. I've trashed a few Alfas in my time as well. I've also owned a Maserati bi-turbo, which, like many cars, got sold for the renovation of a house, unfortunately. But if you know Maserati bi-turbos, it probably didn't buy more than a few door handles either.
Well, I almost said Maserati bi-turbo. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'd probably get yelled at by some listeners. But yeah, they weren't the most reliable. Maybe like having a Jensen Interceptor,
Well, it was a late model. It was a 1989, so they'd just about sorted it by then. And we still own I say we still own. My wife owns a Morris Minor convertible.
Oh, cool.
Which I bought for her 30th birthday, and not giving anything away. We're trying to renovate it for her 50th, which will be next year.
Okay, well, everybody keep quiet, okay? Don't give up the secret here, so we won't let anybody know. Now, I'm going to get in your head here a little bit, Geoff. If you woke up tomorrow and you are manifest as a car, not what you want to be, but how you perceive your attributes as a human being in some kind of an automobile, what would Geoff Love be? And more importantly, why?
This was a hard question.
I know. That's why I ask it.
That's why you ask it. I know. and I went through what I like other people to think that I am, or what do people probably think I am. And I thought, what do I think I am? And it came down to British.
Okay, makes sense.
Understated.
Okay.
So I'm not a person who likes the limelight or revels in the limelight. The fact that it's taken you a couple of months to get me on the show is...
I've worked at you a little bit, haven't I? But I'm really appreciative. You're spending some time with me today. It's been worth the effort.
So slightly unusual. So I wouldn't go for an obvious choice. So I've gone with an AC Ace Bristol.
I like it. Okay. Yeah, it kind of fits the bill with all those British, understated, unusual. Yes. Very nice.
The Cobra is the flashy side, which is not me. But this is a very, very simple chassis. The Bristol engine is obviously the more powerful engine. So it's had a little bit of work on it. So that's what I would say.
Nicely thought through. I appreciate you putting some effort to that. Very cool. All right, Geoff, we're up to the last lap. You've been involved in racing. You know what that means. The white flag's out. The checkered is in the distance. I'm going to rattle off some very quick questions, get some very quick answers from you, kind of a lightning round. So here we go. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes in life?
I would say a belief in myself and a refusal to give up.
Yes, tenacity, grit, persistence. Yeah, definitely. Now, if you could have a drink, or if I could arrange for you to have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive industry, this could be somebody living or deceased, who would it be?
Interesting. And actually, I would say I have been lucky enough to have had a drink and actually, in fact, dinner with 3 of my kind of car heroes at the same time. When I was at Octane, we had a dinner for our columnists, and it was just myself and my editor, and we had Jay Leno, Sterling Moss, and Rowan Atkinson.
Wow.
And I just sat open-mouthed as these guys
and listened.
Talked amazing stories. You had Rowan, who's such a
clown,
a funny clown. You got Sir Sterling Moss and Jay Leno all feeding off each other. It was fantastic.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, what a meal.
So I think I've probably, I don't know whether I could top that from a living or dead perspective, and obviously with Sir Sterling Moss leaving us this year, that was an amazing memory for me.
What an interesting trio of people, too. 2 comedians in essence, but one more of an actor than Jay, but Jay being the consummate car collector, and of course Sterling for all his attributes. Wow, nice group of people. Now, how about when it comes to automotive advice? Is there something somebody once gave you, your father selling cars perhaps, that you found very useful over your years?
What a lot of people say, which is buy for passion and not for investment.
I just had somebody the other day send me an email about, hey, I want to buy an 80s Porsche. I have about $50,000 to $70,000 to spend. And what should I buy that will go up in value? And my first words were, wrong approach.
Yeah.
Don't buy any car because you think it will go up in value unless you're a professional car dealer. And especially this year, because you might get stuck with it and then you'll hate it when you realize all the money you put into it. So yes, buy for passion. That's the best words of advice when it comes to old cars. Now, of course, there are plenty of resources for us these days. I'm going to, of course, start by saying Magneto magazine is a great resource. So let's add that one to the mix. But is there another go-to for you that you'd like to share?
A good source for me, partly as a journalist, although I wouldn't describe myself as a journalist, is Newspress.
Yeah.
Newspress is a PR resource and news site. It's a great place which collates all of the news releases from the manufacturers, from anyone in the industry. And it's a great way of keeping up to date. They send out a release twice a day of what's going on in the world. So I would say that for me allows me to keep up with both the new car world and the old car world too.
I know. They almost send me too much stuff because I sit and read them and then I go, oh my gosh, another hour's gone by. I've got to get off of this thing and move on with my life. But I was just looking at it this morning, actually, some of the new announcements of different things with cars and so forth. So yeah, Newspress. You've got to sign up and join them, but definitely if you're in the car world, worth doing. And I think, do they only accept people in the PR or automotive industry? I'm trying to remember if anyone can sign up with them.
You do have to be qualified by being in the media, but they're fairly generous with what they consider that to be.
Now, Geoff, when it comes to books, is there one in particular maybe you've read this year with a little extra time? Well, you haven't had any extra time in your hands. You're trying to launch a magazine, but a great book you might recommend to the listeners?
I'm going to recommend a book which was written by Edward de Bono, who's an amazing management consultant, called 6 Thinking Hats. And it's a great approach to business management. What it really distills down to is that you need to look at a problem, a challenge, in many more ways than just one. And it helps you by giving you these different hats. You wear a particular hat, theoretically, and look at a problem maybe by an emotional view or from a very positive view. And it allows you to break down problems by looking at them from very different viewpoints. It's a really good book.
Yeah, most definitely. When I was working in a previous company, I bought copies for all the management team and basically made them read it. We had a test is what I did, because sometimes you give people books and they never read them. Go, have you read that book? And I don't have time. I think it was great, especially when you're dealing with, it's more about thinking of the different aspects of the different pieces of the business and how everybody's going to work together and so forth. So I'm glad you mentioned that book. I think it maybe has been mentioned, but maybe not. It's getting hard for me to remember. And that's because you listeners will know if you go to the Cars Yeah website and click on the resources tab, you'll see a place called Guest Recommended Books where there's close to 1,700 books, including this one, listed there. And I made it really easy for you to click and buy, of course.
That's amazing.
All right, we're up to the checkered flag here, Geoff. This last question can be a bit of a doozy, but it's kind of a fun thought. I'm going to buy you a collector car today. Anything in the world?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. But there are some rules to this game since I'm the check writer. You can't sell it to fund another project or fund the rest of your business with. You've got to keep it. It needs to tick all the boxes, meaning I want it to be something you would drive and enjoy. No dust collectors. But here's the hard part. It's the only one collector car in the garage, so it needs to really kind of do everything for you. So what can I buy Geoff Love today?
Well, I've mentioned alphas in the past today, and it's going to have to be an alpha. It has to be a car that will be invited places and is an all-round and therefore can do a lot of things. So I would go for an Alfa Romeo 8C 2900.
You just went right to the top, didn't you?
Well, you're buying it, so
I know. Yeah, it's easy to spend other people's money. That's why the government is so inept. Well,
but it allows you into the Mille Miglia. You will be invited into any concours. Amazing engine. It's rare. It's elegant. Yeah, it's a stunning car.
You know, it really is. And I've had several guests in the show here who own those vehicles. John Shirley's been a guest who had a award-winning Alpha on the lawn at Pebble not too long ago. Actually, it was a while ago, I think. Not Miles Collier, but Chip Connor, I believe, might have one of those. Those cars, to me, are very interesting because as I learned about them way back, and that was when I was in John Shirley's garage and he first bought his. And it was basically bought by a guy who lived in Canada who used to take it to the grocery store to buy groceries in it.
It's amazing.
And he, John is a user of his vehicles and decided, you know what, I'm going to do a full restoration. They did it at Butch Dennison's shop, Dennison International. Did an amazing job. I think he won Best of Show in 2008 something.
2008,
the SDA, that car won there. I mean, it just won so many things. The one that I love is the Touring Spider. I think it's the HC 2900B.
Yes, the B, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that car. Just learning more about it and talking to people who've actually spent time in them, it is interesting because you wouldn't think, being an old car, that it could do everything, but wonderful touring car as well.
Yeah, it's perfect for so many different things, isn't it? And if you were to give me any of them, I'd take David's.
Oh, David's, yeah, of course. So. Okay, I'll give him a call, see if he's willing to let that go. Everything has a price. Sometimes it just gets with a lot of zeros with the decimal point way to the right. So, David's car is splendid. All right, well, listen, I'll get to work. Check's in the mail. It may take me a little while to get this done for you. Whew, you're an expensive date here, Geoff, but I expect nonetheless from someone like you. You've given us a wonderful ride today. I've really enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you for taking time with me. Before I let you go, though, would you offer us one little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you rip off into the English countryside in that beautiful 8C?
I suppose the advice that I would have is carpe diem, seize the day. I think that rules everything that we should all be doing. You get the most out of everything that you do. It's a motto which hangs above in my office, carpe diem. That's what I would say.
Definitely a way to go. And there's another version, that carpe diem, that sees the road, as they say. That's great that a past guest here on Cars Yeah has coined. But yeah, carpe diem, seize the day, definitely. Every day. Every day is important. Get up and use it wisely. Hey, what's the best way for people to follow you, subscribe, and learn more about what you and David Lillywhite are doing there at Magneto?
We have a website, magnetomagazine.com. carsyah.com. So I would ask people to go on there. And what we'll do is we will put a discount code on the website. So people can get 25% discount off the subscription price. So we'll set it up with Cars Yeah as the promo code.
Well, that is awesome. Thank you. That is very cool. Well, listen, I'm going to start letting people know about that right away. You listeners, take advantage of this. Again, if you're getting some magazines that you just go, get rid of them and get one that you'll go, all right, it's in the mailbox. It's here. I'm going to sit down and enjoy it. And that's very kind of you. Thank you. And thank David for doing that with us here. I'll make sure that I put a link to that on the show notes page here. Just go there, magnetomagazine.com, use the code CARSYEAH, 25% off. That's awesome. It's like an early Santa Claus.
Thank you very much. No, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, listeners, again, you can find everything Geoff has shared on his Cars Yeah show notes page. If you missed my talk with his cohort in crime, David Lillywhite, go back and find his show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. Give that a listen to because he adds another flavor and flair to the other side of Magneto. Geoff, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing your experiences with our listeners. Oh, before I let you go, I got to do a shout out to the super connector, Cindy Sisson at GNSGS Events. She was a part of getting us involved with each other as well. They do a great job there, she and Teresa Gilpatrick. Until you and I talk again, my friend, and we take a drive in that 8C, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you very much, Mark. I've really enjoyed it.
You're welcome. My favorite collector car magazine is Keith Martin's Sports Car Market. I've been a subscriber for decades. Sports Car Market is the Wall Street Journal for enthusiasts and collectors. It's your monthly must-read, whether you dream of owning a collector car, maybe you have two, or maybe you've got 200. Sports Car Market has been around for 31 years, and it's filled with valuable articles, intelligent write-ups, and the latest auction sales. Go to sportscarmarket.com and subscribe today. Here's a couple deals I have for you just for listening here on Cars Yeah. If you use the checkout code CARSYEAH, you'll receive a 50% discount on your digital subscription at Sports Car Market. That's an exclusive offer from Cars Yeah. And guess what? Here's another deal. If you'd like to get the actual magazine, use the code BSH for buy, sell, hold. That's code BSH, and you'll get $10 off your annual print subscription. That's right, $10 off. Both of these are exclusive offers here at Cars Yeah for Sports Car Market Magazine. Just go to sportscarmarket.com and get your deals today. If you're listening to Cars Yeah, you've probably spent some time working on your favorite ride. But how confident are you working on your finances? You may be able to rebuild a fuel injection system, but can you decipher the details of a mutual fund? If you're like me, investments, insurance, annuities, budgeting, and other financial concepts may seem a bit daunting, but what if I told you there's a book that describes these subjects and more in an easy-to-read and a very humorous way? My friend Chris Kimball, CFP, a longtime sponsor and past guest here on Cars Yeah, has written that book, and it's titled The Saga of Ike and Penny, a couple's humorous journey through the confusing world of finance. It's a fun look at things you need to know. Everything from investing to effective ways to get rid of credit card debt, and it's probably the only book on finance with a VMAX on the front cover and a classic Mini Cooper on the back. The book's available at Amazon for just $10, and this book will dramatically improve the direction of your financial future. I gave copies to each of my children. All securities are through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Christopher Kimball Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Get your copy, The Saga of Ike and Penny, today.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.